Hey, welcome to the best thing you watched this week, or the best thing we watched this week. We're back. Chris from Movies and Munchies, Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the best thing we watched. That's why the podcast slash video cast is called that. It's been a very busy week and we have a lot to talk about. But I believe Chris is going to give us something special in the podcast section.
Yes.
Which I'm very excited about. We can talk about that later. And I've got an exclusive... exclusive to us, but I haven't seen many other people, but I say exclusive, like I'm the only one in the world.
Don't tell anybody else. It's exclusive.
Sure, it's fine. But before we get into that, hi Chris.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. My eyes have fallen out. I had to put them back in after this week of watching, but yeah, good. How about you?
Yeah, it's been a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot of content, and not all of it I managed to, because there just weren't enough hours in the day. And when I start getting the twitch in my eye, when it does that thing unnaturally that I know, like, my brain's tired when my eyes start working on their own. So,
yeah,
lots of coffee, and I need my standard like 8 to 10 hours of sleep a day.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't understand that much.
I don't. I get about 5, 6, maybe 7 on a really awesome day, but that's few and far between. Yeah.
Yeah. If that happened to me, you would see me and scream like 7. I would be the one with the mask. Oh, I wouldn't need a mask. Yeah. Bloody red-eyed.
Oh, okay. So note to self, stay away from Ruben if he has not had enough sleep.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not a good look. So, what's the question for us this week, Chris?
All right. So this is kind of a what if type of question, not a remembering, but what is the craziest thing that you would do in a limo?
I think my parents listened to this, Chris. I don't know that.
Well, so you're going to make it PG-13 rated?
Yeah. And my wife and my kids, yeah. What is the craziest thing I would do in a limo? Okay, so my friend had a birthday, and this is down in Portsmouth. If he ever listens to us, he can attest to it. But he hired a limo, but it's a really, really cheesy limo. It's the brightest pink limo.
Nice.
And so we had that, and that was, we were kind of boring. We made a lot of noise, and we had champagne. It was his birthday. We went to like this complex, and then obviously we caught the limo back. But yeah, so I can't say that I've actually done anything crazy. But if it was something like maybe when I don't care, when I'm old and grumpy, much like now. So maybe when I reach like 50, 60, I will hire a limo and let's think. Wear a furry costume.
Ooh.
I think I'd do that. Ooh. Be a furry. Choose one of my anime characters, and then
just go for
open up the roof top and stick my head out like with a wolf head and just howl at the moon and see what people say. I think that would be fun. Why do you ask, Chris? What would you do?
Well, you hear about, you often see like risque stories in movies that involves a limo. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry. They say that has a privacy glass there. I'm not actually sure, though, that it's really privacy. Like
it's probably a camera. There's a camera in everything these days.
There's got to be, right? Yeah, I'm not, none of that. I think probably what I would want to do is if I grabbed, if I had a limo, maybe I'd become the driver and I'd be like Lloyd Christmas, and pull up to people on the side of the road and then
make some extra money.
Stick my head out the other side, just
like Ace Ventura.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like a glove.
So to do something like that, what was it? On Top Gear, when Jeremy James and Richard were doing it, they had made limos and they put some stunts that they had to do. And like one of them was like this high-speed chase type of thing with an evade, and you had to turn around and you had to get away. I think that would be fun to go on some crazy, obstacle course with a car and that's really long and hard to maneuver.
Yeah, and that would be tough. That could be fun to do. Yeah, I wouldn't mind driving on an obstacle course, doing a limo, seeing what it is actually capable of.
I wouldn't want to.
Maybe we could get but maybe we could get the American president to loan us his limo because that'll be bulletproof. It'll probably have like bulletproof tires, probably have much better suspension, and you could just really put it through its. Put it through the war zone to test it, for security measures.
And it's probably really fast too.
Yeah. And then if, we could hire Gerard Butler to like be the stunt guy and, or have like the fourth path to White House down. You can call it White House Up and get Ronald Emmerich to direct a car chase sequence for us as he blows up the world and the White House floats up. It's lost its gravity. And we need Morgan Freeman to narrate our driving escapade. And I could carry on the story for quite a while.
Let's not. Not that I don't find you entertaining, but I'm quickly losing interest in the movie itself. Much like the other White House Down movies. Losing interest in those as well.
I can't believe you said that. You've lost some fans there,
I know.
Chris.
Well, I'm sorry. That's just...
They're all 5-star films.
Well, for what they are, sure. Okay. Oh, man.
Talking about 5-star films and content, what is the best thing that you watched this week, Chris?
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, the very best thing I watched this week was a movie at Sundance. So I was, I did 16 movies at Sundance this week. And
that's
it was a lot, yes. So I'm going to save that one when we talk about some of that stuff in the audio only version. But
cool.
One of the things that I absolutely love this week, which I didn't know anything about going in, I had not experienced any of this world. It's the Legend of Vox Machina. And, it's a new animated series on Amazon Prime based off of this role-playing game made up by all these voice actors who then got a crazy amount of money on Kickstarter to get an animation going. And
something like 12 million.
Yeah, exactly. Like in really quick time too. And then Amazon picked it up and gave them a whole bunch more episodes. I mean, they've got 2 seasons now of content, and the first 3 episodes dropped. And this one kind of caught me like Arcane did. Now, the animation is not the same as that, but it was the storytelling that really got me. And I'm not a fan of every single bit of content within this show so far. Some of the juvenile humor began to wear on me. Now, I did see some people who are familiar with the character and with Critical Role and all of that. They were like, well, no, that's actually his character, but that's part of an arc. And so we get to see change in him as time goes along. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of cool then. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, it just, you can only have so many dick jokes. And it's just like, okay, let's move past that. Let's get a little bit more mature in our humor, and not mature as in language, mature as in funniness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because that sets the stage for growth. Okay, I'm okay with that then. But yeah, I really was blown away by it. I loved my oldest son. I was telling him, I'm like, dude, you need to check this out. Like, especially if you liked Invincible, even though, I mean, it's not a superhero story, you know what I mean? But the blood and the gore and the action and that, and I told him the first 2 episodes really just set who this group is. It's almost kind of a one and done type of thing where, okay, so we have this little contained quest. So we're introduced to them. But then in episode 3, we begin to focus in on a character. And I was like, whoa, I'm like...
the shift from there is massive.
That episode ends and I'm like, well, now I still have the next 3 episodes that I can watch. But I was like, wow, that is like really, really good. And I'm so invested now. And so did you enjoy it as well?
Yeah, loved it. Like you, I liked what they did in episode 1 and 2, but I wasn't invested into the characters. So I was more invested into, oh wow, this is like Invincible. They're not skimping on the gore. I thought the score was excellent, really kind of that adventure fantasy that you're used to hearing in that type of series. The animation I thought was fine. It didn't blow me away. It was like, I'm used to seeing this type of animation, although I really like the character design.
Yes.
So if you put those two together, but I was so happy for the fans. I thought, yeah, this has looked like it's been done well, right?
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5. Those are the ones I've seen since then. I've just been blown away by it because it's like, wow, they're still doing that, as you say, fart and dick jokes. But in amongst that, we've started now to see why. And we've seen the characters start to be building. They focus in on a couple of those characters, and that is where the quest journey starts, really. We're focusing on one particular character that needs to go on a quest, which affects the whole kingdom, but it's more about what happened to this one particular character, and the rest of the group that hasn't really been a group yet. They're more just like these band of people that have come together to maybe just go to each pub, make enough money, and drink as much as they can, and fornicate, and that little gnome dude who like has sex at everything that can move.
Yes.
But even in episode 3, 4, and 5, they grow massively, so much so that I think by the end of 5, they're almost a team and wanting to do things for each other, which is a very long way from where you start with them. Can I just say, best opening few seconds ever of an anime. You have the narration, and they're like, these heroes, and then, okay, well, that's over done with then. Like, oh, this is what we're in for.
Yeah, it really did set the stage, didn't it? I mean, you have the people like disintegrating and, just the decapitations and all the blood and the fire and everything. I was like, okay, I'm here.
Some of the voice extra cast, so not the main cast, but the guests.
Yes.
So you've got David Tennant, who is flipping brilliant. You got Felicia Day, who she did the Guild. So there's a series, like web series called The Guild. Her character as well on Supernatural. She did a Joss Whedon thing with a mini web series, Dr. Horrible Sing-Along blog. So she brings her own audience. Yeah. She was the one that got killed off, and everybody's like, no. Well, I definitely do. So she brings her own audience. Then David Tennant obviously brings her own audience. I think it was genius bringing those two in because they're veteran actors, but they're also veteran voice workers, and then bring their own audience. So you have 12 million people minimum who invested into this, and then you bring those two, and it's like, that is a very clever formula to make something that will get enough money, enough audience to carry it on. I was like, whoever's behind this, they're geniuses. They're very clever.
Yeah, well, and I was looking at the voice cast because I'm like, I don't know who you people are. I mean, Critical Role is a group, and so they do this. And one of the characters, as I was just scrolling through IMDb, I'm like, that name looks really familiar, but not as in like somebody that I'm ultra familiar with. Just like, why do I know that name and that even the thumbnail image? And then I look at her IMDb page, and I can't remember the actress's name, but she was in Avengers, and she's the one who she's a waitress, and she talks about Captain America or something like that. She's interviewed briefly just towards the end of the Battle of New York, but she was in Growing Pains. Like originally, that's where I knew her from, and so it was just like, wow, you're doing this. That's really cool. But then one of the guests that's not part of the regular cast, Stephanie Beatrice, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was just recently in Encanto from Disney, and so but she also comes from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and so she's going to bring a big fan base as well. I think they're brilliant in what just all of the people that they introduce. But you have this solid cast. I mean, that voice cast that they have as the core group, they're brilliant. I mean, I'm like...
Really, really good. Yeah. I mean, it's clever because... And it must be so great for them because they've been playing these characters in D&D for ages, just creating and molding it, and eventually they've come with like solid. But it's like you and me around a table with a bunch of our friends, just creating some characters, and that's become an Amazon series. I mean, it's mental when you think about it. What is capable with in today's industry? You know, people on YouTube sitting around, they're a company, but essentially they're just friends. Yeah. Someone's written out a script and a storyline, and they act it out. And yeah, they've got some ability, obviously. But look, what's capable. That's what I love about this show, particularly the creativity from where it started, its inception, to where it's ended up now. Well, the start of it, where it's ended up now, and obviously fans really embrace with that, because 12 million is not a small feat.
No. Well, and you figured that grassroots movement to get it done. I mean, you know, I think Critical Role has a massive following that they've garnered, you know, over years of doing this. But to then just have, I mean, now worldwide exposure, like in a whole different way. You know what I mean? That it is. So you have all the fans who are now rabid or have been rabid, and they're like, see, look, this is what I've been telling you about. Or how did you not listen? You know, whatever. You can just imagine some of them like, dude, see, I told you about this show. I told you about this group. And now look, you can see it here. You know, but yeah.
Yeah, Theron, I'm really looking forward to the rest. I hope we don't have to wait too long for the next, like, I don't know how far they're into animating, like, because Amazon greenlit the next season, but I know the fans have had to wait a while for this to come up, so they've been on board a long time. You know, with like Kickstarter funds, you know, they update you as like the weeks and the months and the years go by. Excuse me. But yeah, you know, maybe not too long. Fingers crossed.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So what's on your list?
All right.
What tops yours?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a treat for us. So Catwoman Hunted is a new DC animated film, and I don't know if you're very familiar with many of them. I prefer their animated films to their live action, if I'm honest. I think their live action is okay. I prefer Marvel's live action. And then their animation is okay, but I think DC really knocks it out of the box when it comes to their animated films. And their animated films, they've been kind of starting to follow a story. So they have individual stories, but those characters will sometimes follow on, like Bruce Wayne with Damian. He's Damian, his son, who was raised by who is part of the Ra's al Ghul, the assassins. Okay, so anyway. Here is the newest one. It's Catwoman Hunted. There you can see the artwork.
Ooh, you actually have the copy of it. That's cool.
Yeah, they actually sent it, yeah. And one of the great things about having physical media is, and what I miss a lot, like buying digital is great. You have the film, you can just stream it or start it whenever. But if you're physical media, you get all the makings of and the special features. And this happens to have two. There's a special feature of the making of the film, and then there's a special short doc of Catwoman's origin, like where she came from the comics, and just really put a lot of time and effort in it. And I appreciate when it's not just vanilla disc. So that's like what comes extra. But the story, this was a different one, and I wasn't sold immediately when it first started, because it was very, oh, this is so basic. So it follows Catwoman in an attempt to steal a priceless jewel. This puts her squarely in the crosshairs of both beautiful consortium of villains, Interpol and Batwoman. And so it starts with her very, like, what you'd expect for Catwoman to be doing. She's stealing, you know. Yeah. She's always been that weird mix of Batman rarely likes her and has had an on-off relationship with her. But most of the time we see Catwoman and Batman together. This was a really interesting mix where she is the protagonist. Batman doesn't appear in this film, but we do get Batwoman, and Batwoman's trying to help Interpol take down this consortium of villains, and Catwoman happens to steal something from them, and they're all after her. So they all come together, and that's kind of the basic story. And I thought, yeah, that's really kind of basic at the beginning. But as you start, I would say half an hour in, I was like, this is okay. The animation's cool. And the more I watched, I thought, wait, this animation is anime. and I had to go and check what's going on with it. And it's purposely gone to a Japanese studio to help them create and design the characters, so that when you get some of the well-known villains in the DC universe, they are characters that are bigger, more embellished. They've made them anime, basically. And so the fight sequences that you follow are also all very anime. And so I was like in my element more and more as the film continued, because the fight sequences are like, okay, now I'm watching anime. But there was more to care about as the story develops. You have a fun, bantery relationship with Catwoman and Batwoman. Batwoman, for once, is actually really strong. Well, depicted as being strong rather than a sidekick. She just seems like she like Batman would struggle with her. Like, she's strong, which I really appreciated. She wasn't just like some sort of sidekick. She was definitely her own character.
Nice.
In this one, you really get a nice mix of Selena Kyle, the woman who uses her wiles as her a femme fatale character that will use her mental aptitude to manipulate the conversations of wherever she's at. So whenever she's like, if she's captured, if she's caught, or she's in a fight, she's always using, much like Batman, which is why I think they're like opposites of each other, but complement each other so much, which is probably why they're drawn together so much, is because they're like the smartest person in the room. If Batman's in the room, is normally Batman. But if you put Batman and Selena Kyle together, you don't know who's thought more ahead. So many times we've seen Selena Kyle, well, as Catwoman, captured by Batman, and then she escapes. And part of that is because he's kind of in love with her, but other part is that she's just smart. She's thought of, an escape. So we get to see her really take her own role, because she's like one of her first, features where she's herself.
Nice.
And we get to see what she's capable of. The fight sequences are probably the best thing, especially because of the anime. It lends itself to action and the way they tell the story. There is, however, a storyline of why she's been stealing so much at the beginning that they don't go into enough. And I think that's the weakest part of the film, because that is what I wanted to know, because you wanted to have an emotional attachment to the character. So there's something there, and you're sort of like, oh, I get it. So this is the reason why. But just from the little conversations you hear, that there's an emotional attachment to people she's actually helping, the reason why she's doing it. And I think had they made her more human in that way, I think you would have grabbed your audience more. There is a reason why, they want to stop this big bad villain group. Fine. But why do we care? And so a little bit about it. I really wanted to know more about what was going on. They hinted at it, but I guess maybe we might get another film. There are going to be some surprises of characters that we don't normally see showcased in the DC, the villain sides, that much. And the way they showcase that reminds me a lot of action moments like Akira, when you see monsters. There's like a mixture of monsters and magic and robotics. It's a mishmash of all kind of just showcasing embellishing the best bits of anime. And then you have Catwoman doing her witty banter dialogue like a Spider-Man character. Whenever he's fighting, he throws quips out to lighten the mood, even though he could die at any second. You kind of have that. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed it by the end. It started off like,
okay,
but I probably, by the time I got to the end, I was on 4 crazy Nicolas Cages out of 5.
Right on. So
have you watched many of those?
I haven't.
DC ones?
No, I've heard some really good things about, what is it, like Batman the Killing Joke. Is that and then there's a couple, there's a couple of darker ones. One where he's like a samurai, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, there was that had a mixed response. There was, I think, the Frank Miller one, the Year One. There was part 1 and 2. That was really good.
Okay.
There's been some like outstanding ones that would be put up for best animated film of the year or something, and all series some of them not so great.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, you're gonna find some pigs in there too, but okay, yeah. And I'll have to try and carve out some time to see some of these. Do I have to do I have to know the world like in and out? Like do I have to be okay?
No, this is a standalone. I think something that you may enjoy about this particular one is its score is all jazz, like Cowboy and Bebop jazz.
Okay.
And because it's got that heist Ocean's 11 feeling, it lends itself heavily into that.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Is that out now, or is it coming out?
It comes out February the 8th.
Okay. Right on. Very cool. Fun.
Yeah.
And you got physical media, which
I did, which is, great.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't buy digital only. Because there have been times where we've wanted to watch something and our internet provider decided to do some work in our neighborhood. And so it just...
Yeah, that's another reason to have physical, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I love having the digital copy. That is because if I'm on my laptop or if I'm, someplace remote or something like that and there's internet, then I can watch that. Or even like out in my garage, I can stream, the movies that I own without having to install a DVD player or a Blu-ray player out there. DVD player, what? What year is this?
What's a DVD?
Exactly.
What's a DVD,
yeah.
Chris?
So, I appreciate that. And so when I buy them, I do my best to get at least a digital copy with it, but I still want that physical because that's always going to play. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I just have to be all I have to have is electricity. That's all I need. And I can toss
and even then you just need a couple of cables and a bike to generate your own electricity.
I have a teenager. So yeah,
yeah. Get them running like a little mouse on a spinning wheel.
Exactly. Oh goodness. All right.
Did you know there's a resurgence of VHS movies? That there's a couple of companies that are putting all like Blu-rays onto VHS. It's a huge market now, apparently. Like vinyl, people are collecting like the latest, like Inception on VHS. And how many tapes would that take? 4?
Yeah, that would be a lot of tapes. And I don't. Remember
Dune, 6 tapes.
Yeah, could you imagine? Well, and think back even to Laserdisc. You know what I mean? Where you had to, it took forever for it to load, but then halfway through you had to stop and flip it over, and it took still. Even
it's like intermission. It's fine.
Yeah, well, sure. Or even like with Lord of the Rings. I just finally got rid of my DVD versions of the extended edition. I still have my Blu-ray and my 4K copies, and my digital copies. But I
can't
finally
believe you got rid of them just for nostalgia.
It was taking up room. No,
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that one you would have to stop because it was broken up into 2 discs. You know, and it was like, dang it, why? I don't want to have to get up and then, like. Anyway, I can't imagine. I'm sorry, no, VHS, it served its purpose for what it is, but why would I want to go backwards in quality? You know what I mean? And are the machines having HDMI out? Because half my TVs, they keep losing all of their inputs other than like HDMI or an antenna input.
No one has SCART anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, what the heck? Okay. So, yeah. Fun.
So what's next on your best thing?
I want to talk about the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window who drove her car to the pier and went fishing.
Okay. Well, if that's on the best thing you watched,
it kind
a friend of mine.
We'll go
we're like in we're in like an argument. Like it's like, what are you talking about? This is hilarious. I just watched the first episode and it's so funny. And I was like, cool, fine.
Okay, I loved the mystery part of this. Okay, I really did. I did not. When we get to the reveal at the end, I didn't see it coming. And I was actually, up until that point, I was even pissed because I was like, seriously, are you really making it this obvious? If this, because at that point.
So I can see, I didn't guess the end. That's true.
So I liked that part of it because, the comedy for me didn't work. Me and my wife, even when we were sitting there and she's like, what is this supposed to be? Like, it feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. Like it's trying to be
exactly that.
Too many things. And because of that, it's missing it on so many different angles. Now, I've had a lot of people, in the comments. They're like, no, it's totally a satire of that genre. And I can see how it is satirizing it, but it's not, for me, it wasn't. Normally when you do a satire, there's also an element of either humor that follows that, or pointing out how ridiculous something is within that. And reading what I had read about the creators of this show and how much they love the genre of the unreliable narrator, and seeing that they were not trying to make fun of this, you know what I mean? They were not trying to make fun of the Amy Adams movie, The Woman in the Window. They were not trying to make fun of The Girl on the Train, which is a spectacular book, by the way. Netflix brought out an Indian version of that, and it was like I started watching and I had to turn it off because I was like, I don't even know. This is not the movie. This is not the story that I read at all. And I don't know if there's an American version or a U.S. version or English version. Is there? Okay, I probably didn't watch that because the book is really, really good. But no, it is. That's Emily Blunt, right? Yeah, no, that wasn't good either. I didn't like that because it didn't hold. I mean, in comparison to the movie. So anyway, back to my point. I digress. So they said they weren't trying to make fun of these because they loved them. This was more of just an homage to them, but also just there's so many of them, so they're trying to point, maybe poke a little bit of fun at that or something. But so knowing that they're not trying to make fun of it, and to insult it or anything else, I don't see any humor that came from this. There's, and I'm going to talk a spoiler, so spoiler alert if you want. When it is revealed what happens to Kristen Bell's daughter, at first I'm like, okay,
they say that like in the first episode.
Yeah,
there's no ways. Like, okay, so I know let's just talk about that bit because everybody's probably watched the first episode.
It's take your daughter to work day.
To work day.
You're a criminal psychologist. You take her to a maximum security prison inside an interview room with a cannibalistic mass murderer or serial killer, either way.
Then they uncuff him.
And then leave her in the room.
And he leaves the room.
And it's
so that apparently is the funny bit that you're meant to find funny.
Yes, I agree with you. You're supposed to find it funny because they reference it again later as like a punchline.
Yeah.
That is the most distasteful type of thing. You don't talk about murdering and eating children as a punchline.
No.
That is not funny.
I'm laughing because I was like, it's so ridiculous and bad. Like, why would you put that in there? So then I can only think is you were making fun of the genre and you wanted it to be slapstick, like a Naked Gun or something, or Hot Shots, but it never was that.
It never went to that degree. And I kept thinking, oh, this is her unreliableness telling us that this didn't really happen this way.
So that's exactly what I thought. I thought she was making up a story because she couldn't handle the truth of what actually had happened. I thought they died I thought her husband and her child had died in a car crash.
Yes.
Hence, it was raining. She has a debilitating thing about rain.
Yes.
And that's why she can't go out, because she might have been driving the car during the rain, or she'd had too much to drink and crashed the car and her family's dead and now she can't cope. That's what I thought happened.
Yes.
For real. Or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I turned my head to my wife and said, that's not real, right? That can't be like the true bit in the story.
Well, and that's what I thought too, until the detective brings it up again.
Right. And then I thought, is she just, maybe that whole conversation didn't happen. It was all in her mind. And the detective was saying one thing, but she was hearing something different.
Yeah, no, it was, and then let's just go to the detective. You make all of these people bumbling idiots, and the conversations, right. and that's where I'm like, okay, I see where you're trying to go with some comedy elements here. You're poking fun at these people, but you're not fully going for it, and so it comes across as like you don't know that you want it to be really, really funny, or you want it to be really, really serious, you're just kind of mushing it all in the middle. And
yeah, because there were things like the bowl of corks and then the corks all around. I know they meant that to be funny, but I was just worried that she was drinking that much alcohol and mixing it with her tablets. I was just literally...
She pours an entire bottle of wine in one glass, and she...
Yeah.
Yeah,
so basically like sipping it. And I know that's meant to be funny, but I was just like, no, I know people that struggle with alcoholism. I know that is really hard to stop. And when you start mixing with drugs, it's really hard to find a reality. So they're tackling all really tough. I just, like you said, I really wish they had chosen one thing. Be one thing.
Yeah, because when they went the mystery route of that, I was hooked. I mean, I was, because I was playing along in this whole whodunit thing. Like, it was like, oh, well, no, it had to have been them. And even the portion where she has visions of herself doing something, I'm like, oh my gosh, she really could have.
I totally saw it. Yeah, I was like, with the drugs that she's been swallowing those tablets with the wine. Who knows what she could have done? Like, yeah.
See, that all grabbed me. That was very interesting, and that all worked. It was just all
I wish it was just a mystery and a serious one. I think it would have been good. It would have been fine.
Because Kristen Bell can be funny within these things without making it this ridiculousness that didn't really work or being completely distasteful.
She was fantastic as Veronica Mars, quite a serious series, and was really funny at the same time. Like, it wasn't a comedy, it was a drama. But her humor, her dryness came across. You could have taken that and put it in this.
Exactly. And I think that then fits. That's totally an acceptable thing to do within drama. You can break up some tension. You can have that work, because I think it endears us even more to the characters, because they become, they're more human, and it allows us to chuckle maybe a little bit to break us out of maybe a little bit of over tension or something, but it helps to modify the mood a little bit so that it can reinvest us at the right times as well. And it
was just so weird, because none of it I felt was real. Like, there were characters, which I guess is the ridiculousness, and which was the part that we're trying to make funny. But like the guy at the postbox who's always there and talking to her, and you're like, what on earth?
Yeah.
Like, why are you always there? Like,
and nothing is happening
to the story, but you're just, how long does it take to fix a postbox? Yeah. There's stuff like that happens throughout that you're.
Well, and see, and I think that part of it too is if you go along through the entire series and you get to the end and you're like, well, was any of that real? That they haven't done a good job with the story. Then you can't leave your audience in this state of like, well, I have no idea if it's real or not. You know what I mean? That because now if you're going to give me the unreliable narrator through most of this, okay, it keeps me in limbo, it keeps me guessing and everything else. But if you leave me in that state, nothing has ever been resolved. And so I walk away being like, well, I don't know. Why did I watch this? Because I don't know any more than I did when I came into this. I just have a lot of questions about this character and what actually happened, and you have not told me what actually happened.
Exactly. We're going to do time codes again, right?
Yes.
Yes. So for those listening and watching, I'm going to talk about the end of the woman who walked across the window and jumped off the ledge to a non-funny comedy. Spoilers. Yeah. So the end. I just want to talk about the end. So I could have forgiven the whole series, the issues I had with it, because the mystery was there.
Yeah.
If the ending had stuck the landing. Now, my wife, we'd gone to bed. We just finished watching this. At like 2 hours into sleep, I don't know if she sat up, but I think she kind of sat up and went, wait a minute. Are they meant to get us to believe that this little girl chopped up the woman, packed her in a bag, and buried her out back without the dad even knowing anything, that he was playing? Like, for one, it took, how quick was she able to kill somebody and dismember a body? For two, she's tiny. How did she move the body? and like get away with all the debris and everything, and then you're thinking about talk about all the other people that died along the way. Just like, it's not plausible. It's not even like it can't happen. It doesn't work.
And I hadn't thought about that, but that's absolutely true. That's you can see how she potentially could have pushed her teacher off of the lighthouse, depending on where the rail is. And if you pushed hard enough, and depending on where they were standing, I could see maybe somebody losing their balance and falling off. I can see her stabbing somebody, slitting her dad's throat. Okay, I can see that. That's, you come up behind him or whatever. He's unsuspecting. He's not going to suspect his daughter anyway. But yeah, you're right. The whole just of chopping somebody up, dismembering them, and then transporting them.
Because the dog has the foot of one, so she definitely dismembered the body.
Oh, yeah, because it was in the wagon, too. Yeah. Remember when she went that second time to get to get a check, and when she steals the knife.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so No, that's... Yeah, I hadn't... That does make it very much more weak.
She's tiny. She was a tiny girl. Like, the fact that she was throwing Kirsten Bell around anyway, and then the Kirsten Bell would like flicker into a picture and the glass broke and the girl would like kind of shake it off. Like, what is she, like, possessed? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, you weigh like 60 pounds. Let me just pick you up and
just pick up a chair and throw it at her. Like, you're the adult here. Stop it.
Yeah. So that part was definitely pushing the boundaries of anything believable. I think I forgave that because it was just because I didn't expect the daughter to have been the perpetrator.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I'm not sure I like it, but I didn't see that coming. Like, really? Her? How?
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, we've spoken about that. So the next thing that I watched that was just some of the best damn TV I've ever seen is In From the Cold.
Are you satirizing me? I don't know if you're being...
I'm gaslighting you, Chris.
Okay, so honestly, when I watched your review after I had posted mine, I did laugh out loud at what you had said at the beginning. Where you're like, if you want to hear a rant about this.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So let me just say we enjoyed this. I think Kirsten enjoyed it much more than I did.
Okay.
We loved it because we so love spy series, and we occasionally like bad TV. We love Alias, and I'm a big fan of The Americans. I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's very dark spy series. It's fantastically done. And so for me, the best of this series was when they were doing the spy thing in Mother Russia in the past. I could have just watched the whole series of that. I thought it was excellent. And the acting from those. When we come to the present, it feels very soap. It just does. It's like you're watching a drama soap, and someone is like, I don't want to be a spy anymore. You can't make me. Oh, yes, I can. Okay, I am now. Okay, great. But before you point out the issues, the biggest issue for me was her powers. They established the law of what she can do, when she can do it, and then give up on those laws.
That ending? Where she...
She's just swapping left, right, and center. But let's talk about when she was invisible. Like, so they told us that to be invisible, she has to be naked. So she's naked and she's hidden against something so she can do like the camouflage thing. Spoilers, sorry everybody. I don't know how we do that. Yeah,
I don't care. This show is poo for me, so whatever.
Okay. It's poo.
But we will put in the time codes, which you would have already seen. Sorry, yes, there's spoilers. Like, we should have done that before. I'm sorry. Rude of us.
Yeah. Okay. So she has powers and she can go invisible. That's not too much of a spoiler. It's in the synopsis, it's in the trailer. It's all good. So but then later she doesn't need to be naked to go invisible, and it was at a point where there was right at the end, either the 7th or 8th episode, she was not, and she was able to go invisible. And we were like, hang on a minute.
Wait, which one was that?
I think episode 7, she was fighting something, and then suddenly she was invisible.
Oh,
it was a thing. Yeah, we were like, I call bull crap.
Yeah.
And also, she literally just said, I'm too injured to heal. Cut to 5 minutes later, she's somebody else. And I'm like, what is going on with this series? It's bonkers. I didn't mind the fighting so much. Like the first 2 episodes, I thought the fighting was bad. But later on, I thought the hand-to-hand combat, when we could see it, like when it was spaced out, I thought was really good. And she was believable as actually being able to pull off some of those moves, which is what I wanted more of. I was like, give me that.
Yes.
Because there was one sequence like in a warehouse shot where she was fighting hand-to-hand, and it was great. And I was like, oh yeah, give me that. That's what I want. But, and I haven't even gotten to the bad spots yet. Over to Chris.
Well, as part of background, I mean, Ruben and I chat online during the week, and just and so just me telling him like, dude, seriously, I can't. No,
what is this?
Yeah, what? But yeah, okay, I agree with you. I liked the flashback portions of this. I thought that was fun. I mean, because it establishes what's going on, and it's piecing out and it's telling us this story. Now, I think it's a little too slow, maybe in some of the, like it's just drawn out. But the whole show is more drawn out than I think it needs to be. But that is fun, and you're right. The actors in that I was drawn to. I liked that. I liked the mystery. When we get to the end and we discover that Anya's mom is the one who is controlling her, is the head of this, Red Sparrow program type of thing, and dictating what she does and all of that is like, oh, I didn't really see that coming. That was good on you. That's cool. The exposition dumps in the present were one of the most bothersome things for me in this. That you have these, we have, like, I wasn't fully invested in the story, but I would get like sucked in a little bit, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's some intrigue in this. What's going on? Oh, so CIA comes. She's known as the Whisper. This assassin that nobody knows really if they exist. It's just rumored. I want this. I want more of this. I like that portion of this spy show. You know what I mean? Where you have somebody who is uncatchable because they don't know what they look like. She's a chameleon type of thing. I'm like, sweet, I'm fully on board for this concept. And then you get, well, we're going to sit down and now we're going to explain large portions of the story to you just in a conversation. It's not even that good of a conversation. It's very just, the back and forth is dry and it's not very intriguing. And I'm not sure I even like you as a character. And I'm not even sure that even Jenny, I'm liking you yet as a character. I want to. There's another show that didn't really know what it wanted to be, I think. Like it had an idea of where it's going, but it was taking too long to get there. And then it's breaking, like you said, it's breaking its own rules. Some of the fight scenes I absolutely loved. There was a point though, and I had said this in my review, where I was literally counting in between the cuts. And it was, it truly was, it was like a second and a half maybe. And it was just on this beat, and it became noticeable to me. Like I didn't rewind to a different fight scene, but I was just watching this one and I'm like, wait, this seems very rhythmic. And I was like, wow, come on. Show me this.
We should compare it to Taken 3. See, there's that one where he hops the fence, and I think it's like 16 cuts. Yeah.
Exactly. Just, oh, goodness. Well, and, okay, so when, one of the times that I laughed that I know I probably wasn't supposed to, but towards the end of the series where Jenny and the other Russian spy, they're in the ice rink, and we see that they're on the ice rink and they're having this conversation, but we're only really shown from the waist up. I think maybe Jenny's on the ground because she got punched, sucker punched or something, and so she's down. But the villain finishes her monologue type of thing, and then she dramatically pushes off on her ice skates. I paused it because I was laughing so hard. I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Well, it's not the stupidest thing I've ever seen. There's a lot of stupid things I've seen, but this is just, what the heck,
There is one other thing I'd like to talk about in this series that maybe you can clear up for me.
Okay.
There's this whole storyline with Jenny's daughter. She's an ice skater.
Yeah.
And they got mother and daughter issues.
Yeah.
Like, it's, fair enough.
Yeah.
You got a mother and daughter issue.
Can be intriguing and engaging with that. Yeah.
However, at one stage in this series, I really thought they were going to take her daughter and make her become a serial killer. I actually thought they were going that way because she comes off as being really psychotic. The way she deals with situations she finds herself in, what she does to her fellow ice skaters, like it goes beyond just general
like a
break a leg sort of thing. Like she's actually going to break someone's leg. She does that on purpose, and so they break their ankle. And then she dissects a bird, like that. I was like, whoa!
And puts it in the soup.
And puts it in the soup. I was like, wow. Okay, what? Because of the stories that we hear about the levels of becoming a serial killer, because I've researched this a lot, and I was thinking of a career change one time.
Well, it's a growing industry.
Yeah, apparently. Oh my gosh.
Sorry. That's very distasteful.
It's very dark. Yeah, but I thought that's what they were doing. They were grooming her, so the mother would have to eventually end up dealing with her daughter who's now a serial killer or has that sort of taste. I was like, what is this? And then I thought, okay, because the other spy, the original bad spy, the teacher, I thought she was recruiting her daughter because she saw something in her and had the mother's DNA. And then when she mentioned that, I thought, oh, okay, she must have natural abilities of some kind that was passed on from mother. But none of that. They just left it and they went nowhere. And so I was like, well, what was the point of any of that?
Well, and think about it too. They hint that she has had troubles in her past. Not just that she's like antisocial or doesn't have friends, but that there are like some kind of issues there. She has some sort of medication that she's supposed to be taking. The mom is slightly worried about her. Wants to keep her kind of close, but then you're right. It all goes away. That's just all, it's all abandoned. Well, and if we go right to the very end, if we negate the John Wick thing, which can you be any more stealing right there of that? You have this thing in your basement or this garage where you have to break the concrete and stuff like that.
When he's breaking the contract. When she's breaking I was like, seriously?
Yeah, that was like, wow,
that's a direct copy.
Yeah, exactly. But then she powers on this phone that's been buried.
Which had power. That's exactly what I said. It's still got power?
Yeah, that's
no. What kind of power is this?
Yeah. See, and I might overlook that if I wasn't pissed already at the series. You know what I mean? But that was just one more thing where I'm like, just no, stop. But to its credit, the long con that comes from the end of that phone call, I was like, oh, now I didn't expect that. That was good, because she taught whoever her contact is, this entire setup has been so that she could be solidified and then brought into the CIA. And I'm like,
but that means she killed her mother because I think that was a big reveal that it was her mother, right? That was her parents that trained her. Yeah. So for everything for Mother Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so yeah. So I hated the show for the most part. There were things that I did find enjoyable within there. I liked her power. I wish that we would have seen
It's really interesting. Yeah.
that it came from this shot earlier in there. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of an odd thing that we see what the results are, and yet it takes so long to get to the.
Yeah, you see, even the shot doesn't explain what goes on with when she transforms, because for the most part, they're always showing us this computer chip looking like thing in her neck.
Yeah.
And it's like, but wait a minute, if the power comes from when she's been injected and it's just her body morphing, why is there a computer chip thing in your neck? You'd never explain that.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of.
There's a lot more. Like, I'm sure if we dissected it, we wouldn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and on even the mind control. Okay. So I get that the mom of Jenny, she clicks her little thing and she sings, she hums that little tune and stuff like that. That it hypnotizes the people that she's around. I don't remember her seeing her though when we get the establishing of these first three people at the beginning. You know what I mean? Where one, he throw himself off the building? One guy gets into this massive fight on the transit,
right?
And whatever the other one was. I don't remember seeing the mom ever there to initiate these types of things. So how did that happen?
Yeah, she had to be like with her stopwatch and humming the tune right near her, because that's what they've established later on. That's what she had to do with the prime minister or whatever the
senator,
guy in the end.
right? Who was going to be
yeah.
Which that actually is what is that, X-Men? Then where you take over, or even G.I. Joe. Yeah. Where Zartan goes and becomes the president.
Over the consciousness. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. Why is it all drowning? I don't get it. How has she manipulated them into all having the same "I'm drowning" feeling? It's so
I
weird.
don't know. Well, and that is also there was a sequence within that was felt straight out of Get Out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I was like,
it is very much stolen, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I could, the more the show went along, like my wife, she tapped out early. She was, I'm sitting there watching it because I watched it actually not this past week, but the week before, because I just knew I had so much with Sundance. And she's like, why are we watching this? And I'm like, I need to get it done. I'm sorry. And she's like, fine, whatever. I'm going to work. And so, she's like,
I'd rather work. Now there's stick that on your poster of your series. I'd rather work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't make me watch this.
That's the endorsement for this.
Yeah.
So just poo.
Okay.
So
just to remind you, Chris, this show is called The Best Thing We Watched, not The Worst Thing We Watched. I think we've done two now where we're just like, this is pants.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
So should we find something good to talk about?
Let's talk about, if you're okay with it, because I know both of us have not finished it as of this recording, but all of us are dead.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
There are problems with the show, and this is not a perfect show. Okay, so I'm going to lay that out right there. But this is retaining some of the same emotionality in a zombie film that Train to Busan did. Like
is it in the same world? Because they mentioned it, and I don't know if it was mentioning it for the film or
they were mentioning it for the film.
Happened.
They were mentioning it for the film to establish that these kids understand what zombies are. Well, but see, I kind of like that because now the kids are they're aware. You know what I mean? They're somewhat intelligent. About, okay, we understand what zombies are, and okay, we're going to try and do this. Now, I think like the emotionality, the connection to the characters, there is a lot of peril that I feel for these characters. I have become so invested in them that, I mean, my wife is even like, you're yelling at the TV, no, don't do that. Don't do this.
I did the same.
Yeah, because and they end some of the episodes on cliffhangers, and it's like, oh, and then sometimes the episode doesn't begin right back where it left off, and so I'm waiting, 5 or 10 minutes of like, what happened to that character? You can't do that to me because that I liked that character, and just as the show goes along, while other problems with the storytelling or some of the plausibilities within the world that they've established, it kind of falls apart a little bit. It introduces new complications, which I'm like, well, that's interesting now. I wonder what this portion that you're introducing in this story is going to have for later zombie movies or zombie shows. You know what I mean? Because I'm not sure that we have seen it done in this way before.
Yeah, so I really like the idea of the rage virus, the 28 days later rage virus. It's or weeks. Great idea. Makes zombies scary. Slow zombies just don't do it for me anymore. No. You can do hordes with them, but those fast ones with a bit of intelligence scare the crap out of me. I do notice that a lot of these zombies are going for the neck, which I guess is easier to film. But when they don't, it's horrific. Like biting bits out. They don't skimp on the gore, do they? Biting bits out of the cheek. I do notice there's weird timings of how they turn and when they turn, so I'm just not sure on, like, one person gets bit and it takes them a longer time. Other person gets bit and it takes them a short amount of time. So, okay, maybe it's down to your immune system or wherever you've been bit. Probably has something to do with it. One thing I do have to say is one of my favorite anime series is called High School of the Dead. And it's based off a manga. It only got, like, I'm trying to think how many episodes it had. It might only have 13 episodes. It's one of those great series that has a lot of pervy characters. But a lot of what happened in that is happening in this series. So I think they've taken a lot of inspiration from it. If you go and watch it, you'll see, like, the archery team. There's literally a whole sequence of that. I also wonder how you killed these zombies, because so far I think I've watched the first two, and I think it's episode 2. There was one person that stabbed a zombie through the face. Obviously didn't get the brainstem, but then the archery person shot them through the neck on the side, and they were dead. And I was like,
So I'm on like episode 8 or 9 now.
Oh, geez, you've watched a lot. Okay.
Yeah, and it that one I don't understand either. That specific kill I have no idea about. The archery team does come more into play later.
Yeah, I figured, I mean, they would. That's amazing. You need them, right?
And they're so good. That's the thing, too, that it's like, wow.
And the coach was shouting at them. It's like, if you want to be this bad. But the shots we saw them, they were all getting bullseyes. I was like, how are they bad?
I know, because it was like, thum, 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 and all bullseyes. And I'm like, holy crap, that's really good. You know? And so you see them become, I mean, they actually are able to kill. At least we don't see the zombies get back up. So I'll say kill in the interim. You know what I mean? But they're headshots at that point. So maybe it was just the fact of one went up through the mouth and one through the neck, and maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe it's just plot convenience too.
But I do like the brutality and the creativeness of the shots that they're going for. Just within the first 2 episodes, when they're establishing everything going crazy, you know, the zombies jumping through the windows, or, you know, one of those shots where you just see people falling. Yeah, it's scary.
Oh yeah.
I felt for some of the characters right in episode 1, where, like, one particular girl's getting bullied, and later on we find that it's assault in the most horrific way. The way they showed, like, with other things happening with her later on, you can see why she wants to, like, she's on top of the roof later. They establish things in that first episode that shows you that the school isn't particularly nice. I mean, I know every school will have its bullies, but there are some things they were like, how is this getting past? And then they're establishing this is how you get infected. And I'm still not sure on that, where I'm at, because I've noticed people have loads of blood, like, in their mouth, and they don't turn. But then, does it have to be bitten so it's in your veins?
It has to be open wound. That's one of the bothersome things to me, is that if you get it in your mouth or on your, like in your eyes or something, that doesn't make you turn. So there are some inconsistencies, and that's where, it goes back to, the show is not perfect. I mean, it has some holes. It has a lot of plot protection as it goes along, for different different characters and stuff like that. But on some of it, I kind of overlook because I love the characters. Like, you know what I mean? Like a character who is protected in this one, like in a certain sequence, I'm like, okay, I'm willing to overlook that because I don't want them to die.
I like them.
I like that character. Yeah. But that being said, too, this is a bit like Game of Thrones, because they are like, I'm afraid to get attached to characters. Because some of them...
There was one character in episode 2 that I thought was a protagonist that would be around, and I was just like, I literally was like, no! Yeah.
There was they're all blurring together because they're so long.
They're like feature episodes, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And as it's going along, I do believe that this could probably, as a binging show, could be shorter. You know what I mean? Like they could, because there's portions of it where you have like the students just kind of sitting around, mulling over, trying to get someplace else, and you're kind of like, well, you're secure. Why don't you just not? I mean,
stay.
Yeah, exactly. Just stop for a minute,
Sit.
But maybe if you were watching this over the course of days, the episodes, the length of the episodes is actually really good, because you get invested every single episode in something that's going on, even if
it's long enough to really establish that.
Yeah. And even if there are some points that are wonkier, or that you're like, I'm not really buying this portion of it, it's only a small section of the larger, that one episode, and so you still have a lot more within there. I am loving it. I mean, overall, if I weigh the good and the bad, the good is is far outweighing the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where I'm at. Like, they're little annoyances, but for the most part, I'm really on the edge of my seat. The shots are amazing. The opening shot was incredible. Somebody's getting beaten on the roof, and you have this crane shot that just... the drone shot that goes round in the rain, and I thought, geez, I'm so into it already, and it's dark, and I'm like, I'm rooting for the person that's getting beaten, and I was like, I hate bullies so much, man. If I was there, I would be kicking the crap out of you and then become the bully. But yeah, it gripped me, and I was like, is this the quality we can expect? And it kind of is. Like, cinematography wise, it's pretty good.
The fight there are some continuous fight sequences in this, where you have the camera chasing after, and right. Now maybe they might cut, because I've seen the portions where they'll go behind something and you could tell, well, maybe they cut there.
That's a good place to cut.
Yeah, but
it looks continuous.
It looks seamless. So I'm like, wow, this is like, I am invested. I mean, you're running along with the character, and like they're sliding on the floor, or slipping or whatever, bouncing off of something, and then the camera will turn around as the character passes them, and it doesn't break. It's just, I'm so, and then it has quick cuts also, but you get enough context within it so that it's not like in From the Cold. You know what I mean? It's not that like everything, and it's like, well, you didn't actually do anything. I mean, these characters they've got to be exhausted. The actors,
man, they're going through so much physicality, and the planning of it as well, because a lot of the time you have a lot going on screen, and then it's close quarters as well. So to plan all of that, it's done so well.
Well, and there was a shot too where it just struck me at how well they had blocked and choreographed everything, because even though it was kind of a superhero stance at the end of one of the episodes, I think it may have even been like the end of the episode 1, you have this, the kids, most of the kids are in this classroom, and the camera pans to them, or kind of just turns, and you get to see all of them, but none of them are obscured from how they're standing and from where the camera is positioned. And I understand that is by design, but still, just the fact that it was beautiful. Like visually, it looked wonderful. And so to watch, from you to pan left to right or right to left, and being able to see all of these characters in different stances there, and you just see, the wearing, the toll that all this is taking on them. I love that there's villains in this too.
Yeah.
Oh, and
ones.
There is more explanation. I wanted to let you know there's more explanation of how this came to be and the motivation for it.
Yeah.
And then they add complications within that, which it's really good. So it's I think some of it, there's got to be some kind of social commentary within this also.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's a broad social commentary. I don't know if there's one specifically for South Korea also, but at least within that. And let me just tell you one moment and we can wrap this up if you want, but one moment where my brain couldn't rationalize this and it made me feel very old and weird all at the same time. There is... So I'm trying to avoid any spoilers. An announcement is made of something that affects the city. And there's a news broadcast that goes and they're reporting on that event. And they say, it's been 40 years since the city has experienced X. And I'm like, okay. In my head, I'm like, well, yeah, gosh, that's probably what, the 60s or something like that. And then the broadcaster goes, in 1980. And I went, oh, stop. Just.
Did you suddenly feel really old?
I was like.
Get your walking cane out.
Yeah. It's like 1980 was not 40 years ago. I know it is, but it was not. It was.
Yeah, no. That doesn't sound right.
My brain. I can't do that.
The 60s, right?
Yeah.
The 40s.
That's exactly. It was the 60s before I was born 40 years ago. And like, no, that was. Oh, hurt me. Okay. But
okay. Before we wrap up the best thing we watched, I did want to talk about one. I know we're running a bit long, but just quickly, The Gilded Age, a wide-eyed young scion of a conservative family embarks on a mission to infiltrate the wealthy neighboring clan dominated by ruthless railroad tycoon George Russell, his rakish son Larry, and his ambitious wife Bertha. This was excellent, like really good, like really, really good.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so from the creator of that other one, that's really popular.
Is this live action or animated or?
Oh yeah, no, this is period.
Okay.
Live action. HBO original series.
Oh.
From the creator of Downton Abbey.
Oh.
However, this time it's set in New York, just as the Statue of Liberty is being brought into New York, and so you have like a hand, and they're assembling it. So you can imagine everybody's clothes. It's the late 1800s.
Okay.
And it's all about wit. And classes. And so what I love about this series is every person, when you talk, it's written like it's a war. Like your banter and your wit, it has to be clever. And you often, there are things that are said or unsaid, like that are so clever that you know that they've counteracted what they've said in social society and demand. The way that the banter is done, you got to be so clever and have your wits about you to be able to do it. So the dialogue is superb. And then you get the costumes and design. Now I know some people don't, especially guys. I think guys a lot will roll their eyes at period pieces. Not all guys, but I really miss the culture of, I think it's honor, the way that people acted. And that probably came from the way that people acted if you had money and had servants and, that kind of thing. That is part of the culture. But we are missing, I feel like we're missing a lot of that. And so I always love when people respect each other it's such a high degree, the way you like open doors for women, that kind of thing. But it's all part of the culture. The way you dress, it's very purposeful. It makes me want to go and buy an old timey suit and just walk around, and people look at me very strangely.
Top hat and
but
cane
it's
also.
Yeah, I don't know if top hat, maybe a bowler hat.
Okay,
but like the
there you go. Yeah.
three-piece suit. Maybe a nice coat and a duster or something for the rain, and that kind of
Nice.
It makes you when men were men, back in the, not that we're not manly now, but here I am in my geeky shirt and have a really really geeky background, and I'm like it just, yeah, you had to fight for every single thing that you wanted. And you had to work for it, and if you didn't, you died. And so there was something to that. So they didn't take anything for granted, and it's done really well. And so some of the actors, the cast are phenomenal.
Okay.
One of the storylines I thought was very interesting is there is an African American woman who doesn't want to see her father, and her family's quite well off, but not nearly to people that are living in this like main area where everybody has like mansions and servants, and down below is where the servants live, and up top is where and so anyway, she's a writer, but she's trying to get her articles published, but under an African American woman in that time is nearly impossible. So we follow her story as one of these families takes her under their wing, and she gets a job, and it's just really like, it's really interesting to see how she has to navigate that, and what it looks like for a woman of her color to be friends with a woman of like a white woman, like white and black mixing. Even that was like, you shouldn't be doing this is not, and fighting against that. I thought it was very relevant for now, even though it was, like, okay, it's so long ago. You think we'd passed those issues, and I'm like, how is this still so relevant today? But as a production, it's fantastic. I think everybody just needs to watch episode 1, and you're like, if you love it, you'll be hooked from the beginning. It's not action, but it's clever, and I appreciate clever.
And it's more dialogue driven than anything. Is that
absolutely dialogue? Like the fun, the entertainment comes in like banter. Think Bridgerton. But not raunchy. Sure.
Well, and I love shows or movies that do that draw us in with that dialogue. You know what I mean? Where you can have lavish sets and you can have some beautiful things to look at, but when you can just have a couple of people on screen and you're riveted by what's coming out of their mouth. That's
exactly that. As proved by Mass, just two people having a conversation. Like, that sounds boring, and yet you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, can't wait to hear what they're going to say next. Yeah.
So is this a weekly release, or is it all at once, or is it?
So I think it's a weekly release. Okay. I think they released like the first couple, like most places are doing now. They release a couple of episodes, and then it's weekly.
Okay.
So you can catch it on HBO in the States, and in the UK it's on Sky.
Okay. And did you say this is limited series, or is it a?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine this will get quite a few.
Have some
seasons.
longevity to it. Cool.
There's a missing gap there because Downton is finished and they're doing a couple of films.
Yeah.
And Bridgerton is more adult.
Well, just something that popped into my head, because you said this is like the late 1800s. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There were a couple of shows that had come out and I forget one of them. But there was Hell on Wheels, which is, taking place in a kind of that same time period, but out west as the train is expanding across the United States. But then there was another show, and it wasn't Peaky Blinders. It was Pinkerton.
Oh yeah, okay.
That
Pinkerton,
was taking place in New York around the same time. Okay. And so it's almost like you could watch all of these shows at the same time and be transported to that era. Even not Peaky Blinders, because that I believe that I need to go back, and I started it and wasn't into it at that time, but everybody said, "Oh my gosh, you need to try it." So, but I think that happens later. I think that's like early 1900s versus late 1800s. But to just see these, and so like it sounds like the Gilded Age could also fit within there, and you get this really good, well-rounded picture of at least the United States in this time that's post-Civil War, but still massively, dealing with all of the ramifications of that. Sure. And okay, nice.
Yeah, I really like the inclusion of just the history bit of the Statue of Liberty, where it's not yet the Statue of Liberty, and kind of the history of how and why it's not put together yet. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Made it more real, like it's like a real world story, drama, whatever, to do with the houses. Yeah, it was good.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Right on. Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I think we've run over long enough. There are other things we could talk about, but as we have some special things to talk about in the podcast section, we should head over to there.
That sounds good. Well, so this is the end of the YouTube portion then. So we thank you for joining us. Please, as always, like, share, subscribe. You got Ruben with the Ruby Tuesday. Me, I'm Chris with Movies and Munchies. You can hit us up on, obviously, our YouTube channels, wherever you're watching there. We'd love to know, what is some of the best things that you watched this week. Let us know, because it's always great to hear what you're watching as well. You can tweet at us at Best We Watched. That's a shared Twitter account for what we do. And so we would love to hear that as well. You hit us up there. But also, if you're watching on YouTube and you want the rest of this, head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Podcasts or Stitcher, wherever you happen to listen to podcasts, and you can find us there. The links are in the description below. And you know what? After that, or from that, I don't know. We've talked a lot, and it's been a long week. But we thank you so much for just tuning in, for sticking around with us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next week.